Time to do some sketchy shit. Doo-dah, doo-dah. Hope I get away with it. Oh, the doo-dah day. Time to do some sketchy shit. Doo-dah, doo-dah. Hope I get away with it. Oh, the doo-dah day.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Dan Hollifield, and welcome to Last Man Standing. I got Aunt Donna in the audience here in backstage, so she likes a little bit.
Doing the sketchy shit dance and the sketchy shit song.
hmm So I had to play it again once she popped backstage. But that is not a hardship, believe me. So,
I was already dancing to your cool music.
oh well, thank you. Send Rich the link personally, even though he's tied into the stupid o'clock link send stuff. Uh, don't know. Uh, Hell, we're going top
There
stupid
we go.
o'clock tonight. There's we went everywhere and spoke about more things than I really want to think about at the moment. So,
Yep.
oh, roller coaster, as it always is. A roller coaster.
Actually, roller coaster has rails.
This is true. We don't. Stupid o'clock don't need no rails, and wouldn't know what to do with them if they had them. One reason why I like being there. No wrongs, just stuff.
Yep.
Now, okay, got that there. Let me go back up here to the comments just in case somebody says something. And oh, I've got to get rid of the stupid clock broadcast on my my YouTube here. Um,
No use having them around.
it's not making it really. There we go. It's making it really difficult. The weird thing is, and it's probably not that weird. YouTube never gives me a link to this show because it's on my channel, so it figures I already know about it. That's all right.
Oh yeah. Well, I was surprised. I usually have to look for LMS and Stupid O'Clock. And when I tuned into YouTube way this morning, there the links were already. Like,
Yep.
whoa. Leave that window there.
Yeah, really. Sometimes Joe Dog does not go ahead and set up the channels until like 6 or 7 in the evening when we're doing a 9 o'clock show,
Mm.
and a little bit later on Saturday nights when we started at 11. So it's not surprising. I mean, boy got stuff to do. He ain't got time to sit there on the computer all day long like me. Uh,
Like Uncle Carl.
was not going to go there. Was not going to go there.
He'll ask me, "Did you see what I said on Facebook?" I'm like, "Did you put it on
Did you?
after 9 o'clock this morning?" Well, yeah. No, I didn't.
Yes. We have a doggy.
Oh, you got a doggy.
We got a doggy. Yeah, she wanted in, and she usually doesn't make much noise. Oh, now she wants to go back out to the door because Mama's there. Uh,
Yeah.
well, we'll see. Uh, no, it just started Last Man Standing, dear. Yep. Another 2 hours, and I'll come to bed. Or Mm, okay. Love you. My dog was just looking to find out whether or not I had any more food.
Yeah.
Come up begging while I was eating my little snack before stupid o'clock, and then walked out of the room to go down the hall, come back, and the dog had jumped up on the table, drugged the little paper bowl down, spit out the plastic toothpick I was using for my little sausages and olives, and eaten the paper towel that was in the bowl that I used to soak up the juice from the little sausages when I put them in the microwave for half a minute.
Oh, my best friend April learned back when Blue Boy, our Siamese Blue Boy, was still around to not leave your Arby's sandwich sitting.
Oh no, no. You don't leave food within 8 feet of the floor because it's a 5 foot tall dog standing up.
Oh, Blue was a
Uh,
Siamese cat, but he was probably
oh
big as a bulldog. He was big boy. Walked like a bulldog too. But he was just such a polite gentleman. Never jumped up where he shouldn't. Always very patient. So
well,
it really,
anybody was looking.
yeah, it really surprised her to turn around and he stole her whole roast beef sandwich.
Uh huh.
And I'm like, she's never had roast beef before. I don't know. It must have smelled awfully good.
Well, they do, don't they?
Yeah.
I'm quite fond of them myself.
Oh yeah. Yeah, if they weren't so darn expensive, Arby's would be my favorite fast food place.
Yeah. Oh, here's Rich. Hey,
Hey, Rich.
Howdy. I was just telling Misty goodnight during the show change.
I don't know what happened to Carl. He must have snuck into bed without saying goodnight.
Well, it happens.
So I'm officially older than you are again, Dan.
Again.
Yeah. We started watching Dispatches from Outside the Box
Oh, yeah.
with C. Michael Lanning. And we get on there Tuesday night, and all of a sudden, playing this big happy birthday thing for me. It's not the traditional happy birthday song because, of course, that would be copyright. But I'm like, oh, wow, didn't even know they knew.
And you can't play the Beatles version either.
No.
I know that without even trying. I mean, good grief if they get a copyright strike against this show for using my music when I wrote it. That one was interesting. Somebody actually filed a copyright strike over my own music. And I'm going, oh, wait a minute. I own the copyright to that, dude.
I heard a story about a woman musician who had the same problem. They actually tried to fine her. Like, no.
It's on my 7th album. Go to Bandcamp. I mean, seriously. I wrote it. It's in good company with a lot of other stuff, including the Stupid O'Clock theme and some stuff for different commercials. And haven't put the bit for Mike Jimmy's animated version of Life on Korra yet, because it's only like 30 seconds. So, I'm not working on another album currently, so it would have to be another compilation album of different things. Otherwise, it wouldn't fit. But who knows? If he asked me to do more, might even be enough for a whole album on there. And I'm sure that he wouldn't object to me putting it out. I mean, it's not like anybody's going to notice. You got to actually search my name on Bandcamp before you find out I got a Bandcamp. I've got links over on Aphelion, but it doesn't seem to be something people click on a lot. I need to re-update that page because I don't update it more than once or twice a year. So I was hoping there'd be some more books out by now, but not yet.
You mean like some of us have a new book out?
Yeah, like some of us have a new book out. And some of us don't. Oh, and Rich went to the post office today and bought the media mailbox to send you your copy of the Spaceport Bar book.
Thank you.
Did not forget. Just haven't been going into that particular town. I was going the other way into the other town. And believe me, I don't want to deal with their post office. Evidently, there has been a change in policy in the small town post offices lately.
Oh,
And for us, the local mail carriers, instead of going to their post office they work from to pick up their stuff to deliver, they have to go over to the next county to the big post office and pick up their stuff there and sort it and get it ready, then come back out here and then do their routes. Adds
I'm
about
not
four extra
surprised.
adds about 4 extra hours to the time the mail had been being delivered for the last 50 years. But
Oh, was
there's all
that
kind of
all?
there's all kind of folks have been trying to close the post office down because it actually makes money. It's self-financing.
The post office for the town that Misty and I used to live in, we hated with a passion. Um, they were not always open the hours they're supposed to be open.
Mm-hmm.
They put out a survey. We know we want to improve service for you guys. Blah blah blah. Which of these would you like? So the options were stay open later, home delivery, because where we lived, we all had to go to the post office to actually pick up our mail from the actual post office, or put out rows of mailboxes every couple blocks, and then you go to those.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Chris, we go there and pick it up there. And sure enough, they decided to have the post office open less.
Well,
Something that wasn't even an option.
I have never understood. We don't have, not anymore. We used to have separate mailboxes for in town. We still have, at the post office itself, separate mailbox outside and separate slot inside for in-town mail.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't get sorted in Danville. It gets sent 35 miles to the post office in Champaign.
And get sorted there and then shipped back.
And then shipped back. So yeah, it takes 2 days to send something across town. Wouldn't know about that, Chris. We always get ours done the first week of February.
And ours are filed online the same day we show up at the tax preparer's office. We sign the papers. It gets sent electronically. We go home 2 to 5 weeks later. If we have got a refund, at least one of the two, the federal or state, is in the bank. That's going to get weird once I retire. Because I don't know what kind of taxes or tax preparation it takes when you are retired. I've never talked to anybody about that. It never occurred to me before. Because I don't make that much aside from my paycheck from the factory. I've only once had to actually add in my royalty payments because one year I made enough to actually qualify. So, but aside from that, so I don't know what I'm going to be doing with the taxes when it's all from my my pension and my 401k, and then a few months later my Social Security. I'm sure there are taxes that have to be filed, but
It's
I'm
really not that different or that difficult. Of course, we've always done our own taxes.
mm, I always did my own up until I got married. First time
Mm,
I got married, and then I thought this is probably going to be a little bit more complicated. Let me go. Um, God only wants $25. Been with that same tax preparation company for almost 30 years. I am now dealing with the son of the man that I used to go to, and we've talked about how things would change if I suddenly got a measurable income from royalty payments. And he says, "Well, when it happens, I'll be glad for you, and I'll help you with the paperwork. If it don't happen, don't worry about it."
hmm
As a dyscalculic, I have always had other people prepare my taxes.
Mm.
Well, we usually pretty much file for free online, but the first year we had income from writing, I was like, well, I'm going to be, good guy and report this. It was all of maybe $15.
Mm.
Cost us $35 to buy the form in order to send it in. And he's like, oh, I'm not going to do that anymore until I actually have more money than the form cost.
Yeah. My guy puts it in under additional income on the same form,
Yeah,
and it don't have to buy any other. Well, he does it all in the computer anyway. I don't know.
that's how
I
we
don't
do it.
I don't know that I'm buying another form, but hey, uh, basically they know what they're doing. I trust it. It's just like the folks that do my stock market stuff uh for my pension and my 401k. A lot of folks I know will go in there and change the stocks this way and that from one week to another. And I'm going, uh, do you know more than these people that have spent their entire life doing it? I mean, when it comes to something that complicated, I'd rather let a little old man or somebody that was trained by a little old man or a little old woman that know what they're doing do the stuff.
Yeah, the only thing I do as far as that goes is every once in a great while I'll go in and I'll nudge a couple percent around between um, risk factors. Because
Mm,
in our 401k, we've got, conservative, we've got intermediate, and then we've got, uh, I don't remember the exact word that they use, but basically, more risky. And basically, you can decide how much of
hmm
your 401k gets put into which of those three categories. And every once in a while, I'll put a couple more percent into the more riskier. I'm like, I'm kind of worried because I hear a bunch of bad news about the stock market lately.
Mm.
Let's go ahead and put some more stuff into the conservative out of the risky factor.
Yep. Um, Basically, we've got three levels of risk, and I've got three levels of stuff that I can choose how to go. And so I put the pre-tax and the really, really conservative stuff. I put the after-tax in the moderately risky stuff. The company match. It's not money I would get, except the company just hands it to me. It's not, I mean, it's based on a percentage of what I normally make, but it belongs to the company basically, or at least that's the way I think of it to keep from thinking anything untoward. And I put that in the risky stuff.
hmm
It's not coming out of my paycheck.
We,
It's coming out of a multi-billion-dollar multinational corporation that's got money to throw away
yeah,
and frequently does. Yeah.
We didn't have any stocks until after Carl's dad died, and he divided them evenly between the three kids. But we got Apple and Harley Davidson and some other little podunk investment. So
Anheuser-Busch.
kind of just let the Apple and Harley Davidson sit there, and
Hmm.
then he would play a little bit with something else. But when he decided to retire, just cashed it all in. Nice.
Mm. Yeah, that little fruit company, Apple. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, ah,
Yeah, mine. Of course, I've got seven nieces and nephews, and they've all got kids. And every time one of my great nieces or great nephews would come, I got a brand new Apple Watch today. I'm like, well, thank you.
yeah.
Ka-ching.
Ka-ching. Yep. Um, uh, Sometimes I am sent forms to go, hey, you've got stock in this company. You're allowed to vote on some of this stuff. And I go, do you think some boy that grew up on a farm and thinks money is not a way of keeping score is going to know how to play the stock market and go, this is a good decision. This is a bad. No, no, I'll let the experts make up their minds. I'm
Hmm.
sorry. Um, and I know I am ignorantly trusting people I believe to be experts, but this is their living too. Uh,
Yeah, we moved off the farm in 1970. Moved up to a little house in the country by Rossville. And one day, this letter comes in the mail to my dad, and it's a check. Okay, looks at it. It was from a co-op that they had belonged to back when they were first married.
oh,
And I I don't know the whole story. I don't know if the co-op finally folded or what, but I mean, 70s, I was a teenager. They hadn't lived on 49 for 15 years.
hmm,
And yeah, they tracked him down and said, "Here's your money." Oh, well, thank you very much, sir.
probably was from them selling the farm and no longer being part of the co-op. So
They
they got
never
their.
owned the farm. They were always tenant farmers.
Oh,
It
okay.
was some kind of power company deal.
Oh, yeah. I get those from time to time. The electric company out here is um, basically once a year they'll go through their profits and their stock and whatever, and if they've taken in more money than what they need to operate with
Hmm.
after X number of dollars for expansion and buying new equipment and building new substations and whatnot, they'll send us a check.
Hmm.
Um, some year it's over $100. Some years it's about 20.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, with Lahucci down in Florida does that. That's the
yeah,
power company that took care of where my folks were.
it works out. I mean, electricity is one of those things that we're going to keep using until something better gets invented, and that doesn't seem to be coming down the pike anytime soon.
No, I
I
just
mean,
wish someone would tell Ameren about this, helping their customers out.
oh, now there was a time when I was excited about the news about pebble bed thorium reactors that you could set up in your backyard. Have your own nuclear reactor in the backyard, like your well house in the front yard. Um, I get the feeling you got to put the reactor a little bit further away from the well than you would an outhouse.
Yeah.
But
Carl's.
basically, you'd have one wire from from your reactor to the house, and you'd have another wire to the mains, and whatever like solar, whatever electricity you produced that your house didn't use, the membership corporation, the local EMC, would go ahead and distribute through the network, and you get a little dividend check.
Mm-hmm.
What
Carl
was
talked.
it?
Carl talked
The
about putting a windmill,
Yeah.
and he thought I'd say how no, but I surprised him because I saw this really neat windmill that looks like a tree, and the leaves are little propellers to get the wind power in. And I'm like, yeah, we could put a couple of those in the lawn, and we wouldn't have to in the yard. Wouldn't have to worry about raking leaves with them. I'd
Yeah.
be all right with that.
back
Over on the
in the
farm.
day of landlines, so there was a side of hacking called phreaking
Yep.
with a PH. Uh, there was a box. I want to say it was the Aqua box. I don't remember off the top of my head. But if you plug that in, it would actually cause your meter to run backwards. So you would end up being paid by the power company. Needless to say, that stuff got shot down real quick.
Yep. Yep. I've heard all kinds of things to try and cheat the electric company out of their fair payment. Um, there was one guy that got caught. They had quit reading the meters and had the little transmit meters where just drove down the road and
Mm-hmm.
read your meter from the road instead of having to come up the house to look at it. And somebody got really curious as to why they weren't using hardly any electricity whatsoever according to the meter. Somebody actually got out of the truck, walked over to the meter, had a big bag of the salt that gets used to bait deer illegally draped up over the meter. And it was not a waterproof bag, so when it rained, salt would salt water would go inside the meter and slow things down.
Ooh.
And the inside of the meter would rust, slowing things down further. I don't remember exactly what kind of fine they had to pay, but best as I can recall, it looked like something that normal people would expect as a check from the lottery when they win.
Yeah.
It You can game systems as much as you want, but it's not traceless. You will get caught eventually.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
That's
they're right on you. When our engagement was announced in the paper, I get my monthly power bill, and they've added $800 to it. I was living in a trailer at the time, maybe paying $100 at the top.
hmm
So I go in. Carl had trusted his ex-wife, gave her cash money to pay the power bill.
and she hadn't been.
No, and that was just before they moved from that area. They moved from Danville over to Champaign. And everyone just sat around until his name came up with mine, and they put it on my bill. And I threw a fit. I told him, I said, "This is not mine. I'm not paying it. And frankly, yeah, this was a lie, but I was on a roll. Frankly, you disrupted my engagement. We're not talking about getting married anymore. And I just might have to sue you for
Alienation of affection.
exactly. And they said, "Oh,
I'm
we'll take it off, but you get married, we'll put it right back." And I told him, I said, "That's not happening." So I went home and I told Carl, and he's like, "Oh crap!" Fortunately, he had enough money that he went down. I said, "Don't forget to tell him that you lost your fiance thanks to this." But yeah,
Otherwise, they'd have tried to charge you twice. After they got his money, they'd want yours.
mm-hmm. And then after they got married, they do not like it if you only have two names. You have to have a middle initial because their computer program is set up that way.
Mm.
So all the time it was just me. It was Donna X Carlene. Really? Okay. The minute we got married, the next bill that came to Donna Carlene Witzman. And I'm like, oh, let it be. I just really don't want to go screw with it. And that's 35 years, and it's still coming to Donna Carlene Witzman.
We just got a shut-off notification from the utilities from the town that we used to live in. We moved out June 10th. Actually, June 9th. June 9th was our last day in there. Misty went in and to the town hall because our utilities were actually through the town out there and cut off all the utilities on June 10th. So we just got this for $1,000. I'm like, okay, one, why didn't they try to shut it off before? Simply because they only let you go a month in arrears.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I'm calling back. I'm like, okay, we haven't lived there since June. My wife was in there and signed the disconnect June 10th. Why do we owe $1,000?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, earlier in the month, in fact, actually, right here it is. Earlier in the month, we received an actual bill from them, and I called them up, and as I'm explaining everything, the lady's like, "Oh, sir, we've already gotten taken care of. You're already off it. You don't owe us anything. Blah blah blah."
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "All right," and then we just got the disconnect notice, and I'm like, "All right, apparently no, it's not zeroed out." So I'm like, "We haven't lived there since June. Why are you? We disconnected in June." I'm just happy to be out of that town.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a decent little town. Spent 16 years of my life there with my wife. Kind of got screwed over by my father-in-law. But hey, we're closer to town. We can actually get pizza delivered. Anyways, sorry, I digress. But yeah,
No,
That's an important thing.
I was just wondering why you didn't just, while you were on the phone with him, and say, "You do realize I work for a law firm. How many lawyers would you like to buy a new Porsche for?"
Well, if it continues, that will be the next step.
Mm-hmm.
I try not to play the lawyer card because,
well, sometimes people make
I don't
it
want it to
necessary.
become reflex, right? And
Sometimes people make it necessary. They are trying to take advantage of you, and this is the one thing that they are afraid of: repercussions.
I do keep that in my hip pocket. But it's I'm very frugal with even contemplating reaching into that pocket for it, let alone pulling it out.
Yeah, but that third strike, yeah. Jennifer, you're right.
Pizza's never a digression. Yes, exactly. And
I
Chris,
was
I'm sorry I didn't put any of your comments up. They we had already gone past them by the time that I saw them. So um, uh, I'm a poor host.
yeah.
I'm sorry. Uh,
I was 28 when the folks finally decided to sell the house at Rossville, moved to town, and they teased me about it that they had to sell the house in order to get me to move out. And they bought me the trailer that I moved into. So I'm coming from out in the country, 3 channels. Better make sure you've got food in case it snows. To a trailer in town. I got cable. I got pizza delivery. That talk about living the high life for a while. Woo.
yep. Um, when my family first moved to Athens, Georgia, my folks discussed having the cable TV turned on. Mom found out that you could get all 3 networks by hooking an antenna lead, just the flat antenna wire, to the holes in the plug for our electric percolator and hanging that up on a nail. You could get ABC, NBC, and CBS clear as day from inside the house. One day, Mama got curious and hooked up the cable TV wires that came out of the wall. We had never had it turned on. Got free cable TV for 3 or 4 years. The family that moved out never had it turned off. And
Ooh, wow.
evidently, they never got a bill because they filed the disconnect notice. But the serviceman never came out, climbed the pole, and actually turned it off. So it was still on, and nobody knew, not even the cable company. When we moved out, left a note, said, look, cable works, but you're going to have to sign the form so you can pretty much continue it and get, pay the bill. Don't know how that turned out. Really don't. It just kind of, to whom it may concern, you can get free cable if you're really bright. Um, I'm sure that's not the way Mama worded the note, though. Uh, and the nice thing is that by the time we moved back to Athens after a brief time back up in East Tennessee, Dad was working for the University of Georgia machine shop, which is attached to the physical sciences and the high energy physics building right down the hill. Basically, he made toys for the scientists to play with, and bought 100 acres of land out in Madison County, where we're out now. He and I strung three strands of barbed wire fence around the entire 100 acres. Cut down trees to make the fence posts. Cleared off a bunch of land. Dad got itchy feet again. put in an application for the Y12 gas diffusion plant up in uh, Oak Ridge, close to where he used to work before. We moved up there for 3 months. He was working in Oak Ridge again. After 3 months, he decided this was not challenging enough to his skill level. So he quit, got a job back with the university, shortly got a job with a little machine shop that made parts for U.S. Air Force, bought another farm. It's right over there, 3 miles away, still got it to this day. Um, I mean, how good do you have to be that working in a place that refines uranium for nuclear weapons is below your skill level? He was good enough as a machinist at the place that made parts for the Air Force and for several airlines that when he said, okay, it's time for me to farm, I got to have a couple of months off. They let him. Just as long as he was going to come back, they didn't care. You take as long as you need to get that soybeans planted. When you got that done, come back. When it's harvest time, you can take some more time off. Not long before he passed away, and this is before we found out about the Alzheimer's. He and I were walking out in the yard one day, and it was early evening. Moon was visible in the daylight. He looks up at it and goes, you know them little dune buggies the Apollo astronauts took up there? I made some parts that they used to put them things together with back when I was in Oak Ridge. I said, you made parts for the lunar rover? I said, yeah, they just handed me some blueprints and hunks of metal and I made the parts. You know, no big deal. Same thing I do for the airplanes and stuff. I'm going, okay, this is impressive. And I figure it was something he forgot that he'd signed a non-disclosure agreement to say anything about.
Yeah.
But hey, entirely possible that my dad's got fingerprints on some gears and drive shafts and stuff like that that's on the lunar rovers up on the moon right now. And Lord knows whatever else he did. There was a time back in the 70s when C-50 cargo planes, the cargo doors would pop open, planes would depressurize and crash. Dad made the new door locks, didn't design them. They handed him blueprints, they handed him the metal, he fired up the lathe and did it all together. And them things haven't been crashing since. So, man does good work. Or did.
Yeah.
I still miss him.
Well, Jennifer, that is a Gurkha status cigar. And it's not very dark. It's very smooth. But if you think this is a fat cigar, I don't have any with me, but you should see some of the ones my husband smokes.
They look like kindling.
That one that he likes so much and it's hard to get a hold of is about 3 times around than this one is. It's about like that.
That's what she said.
I was waiting for that.
I know. That's why I went ahead and said it. I can tell by your expression.
Mischievous grin.
Yeah. I can read your mind like a magazine.
It ain't that hard.
I'll take that as a compliment, but I don't know how I got skipped. Oh, my little brother
Don't make
is
me
a
come over
genius.
there and smack you, boy.
My little brother is an absolute genius, always has been. Of course, if you look at photographs of him, he looks exactly like Nikola Tesla.
Mm.
Made his living as an electrician for a while. And he and I can brainstorm up some stuff you would not believe, mostly comedy, but other stuff as well. And he has just about 2 years ago decided to pick up a paintbrush and some oil paints and try his hand at artwork. Now, if you've ever heard me talk about how good an artist my mother is and how she taught me as much or more than what I learned about art in college, my God, Timmy can, I mean, he does amazing paintings. Absolutely amazing. Uh, my sister's artistic. Mom, me, Tim, uh,
It can run
my
in the family.
my sister's niece is in an art college in Savannah on a Disney scholarship, I do believe, hoping to get a job with Disney or Pixar when she graduates. She's doing animated movies now. I mean, that's what she does for her homework. And uh, seriously, and Dad was an artist too. He was a sculptor. He worked in metal with a machine shop, basically. Uh, he didn't design the stuff, but he could look at some blueprints and he knew exactly how big everything had to be. And he could tell the difference between a thousandth of an inch and 2/1000ths of an inch just by looking at it. He could tell when a piece of metal was too thick and needed to be shaved down, or when a piece of metal was too thin and needed to be recut from a thicker piece.
Hmm.
Just, oh, he was hell on wheels on a pool table, let me tell you. Geometry came naturally. I was so jealous because I could not do math with a calculator and two abacuses. I swear. And it wasn't until I discovered Excel that I was able to figure out algebra. It's like, that box times this box divided by this box equals what I got left in my bank account. Hey, I can figure that one out.
Amazing how formulas make sense when you have to deal with them on a regular basis.
Or
Hmm.
when you find they have a practical application.
Hmm.
I mean, if Jimmy has 17 apples and Jennifer has a pumpkin, um, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a would a woodchuck could chuck wood?
Hmm.
None of those word problems in school ever made any sense to me.
Yeah. My
But
best friend from high school could not do math, and then I hit on how to get her to figure it out. Put everything in dollars and cents.
mhm.
If it
with
had to
me,
do with money, she was a frickin' genius.
with me, it's spatial relationships. Box A, box B, box C. Put in the right uh, mathematical sign as to what you want them to do. Makes perfect sense then. But if you lay it out as a series of numbers on a page, I can look at it and go, let me call up the calculator on my phone. Uh,
It is the heart of security awareness compliance training season for us at the firm. So, um, by the end of December every year, we have to have so much compliance as far as security awareness training so that we can keep an ISO certification 27001, which is a security certification. And it's what a lot of our clients want the firm to have. And so it's very important for us to have this. I'm the only one in the firm that cares enough about Excel. So I'm the one that has to do all the reporting for it. So every day I'm running this report. I'm sending it out to all the managers on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays because they don't want to be bombarded with it every single day. But I run it every single day because I can't tell you how many times. Now, we just started at the beginning of the week. So it'll probably be middle of next week or sometime the week after where I start getting questions on like a random Tuesday or Thursday afternoon. Where are we sitting now? Well, as of 7:30 this morning, it was this. Give me a few minutes and I can run the numbers and tell you what the numbers are right now.
Yep. When I started training quality control people at work here recently, they told me, now look, you've got to use that same printed form that they use. None of this fancy Excel stuff that you're used to. We want to be able to have it turned in just exactly the way it's always been. So I spent about 6 hours one day, scattered out through the workday. I took their standard paper form and rewrote it as an Excel sheet. Looks almost exactly the same fonts, same size boxes, same everything. But I put my calculators in there. And they never said a word when I turned in stuff with all the stuff that they usually see handwritten in totally unintelligible handwriting from everybody be typed out. Have not mentioned it, have not said, oh, you shouldn't have done that. Have not acknowledged, hey, this is a good idea. None of that. And I'm going, well, as long as you don't mind, I'll keep doing what I do best. Letting the computer do the work. All I got to do is teach them how to make the measurements and write it down. If they want to go to the expense of time to type it up and hit print, then you can see exactly what numbers that I have to use a magnifying glass and sometimes ask them what they wrote down. Is that a 6 or an 8? I can't tell.
Yeah.
And yes, my accent's starting to get stronger here. Oh, and if either of y'all are curious, Jennifer's one of my cousins.
I kind of had a feeling y'all knew each other.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a freshman in high school, I took a
It's
class
cast of
that,
thousands, I've got to say.
yeah, they just called it business, but he taught us about or tried to teach us about how stocks work and um, how wholesale works, and he also was going to teach us how to do our taxes. Now, Dan probably remembers. Don't know if Rich does, but that was back when tax papers were like a freaking newspaper.
Uh-huh.
Remember that?
Yep, sure do.
Now, yeah. I mean,
You got a
huge.
book. Looked like a chapter of Dune.
Just about, yeah. At the end of the class, this idiot informed me whatever you do in life, don't do anything that has to do with math. And I'm like, wow, okay. So I took accounting in college, did okay. Just one semester. About a B level, I guess. But then I was out of work, so I went up to Ross Township, where we lived, And I'd gone in for help.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked at me and says, I'll bet you're somebody who'd rather work than have a handout. And I said, what are we talking about? So I became a secretary bookkeeper at Ross Township for about 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that man taught me everything he knew about CDs, um, payroll, everything. To the point of when he was playing golf with a friend who said, I need somebody to be my accounts receivable uh, bookkeeper. Do you know anybody? My name came up. And I was supposed to work maybe 4 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
In less than 2 weeks, I had a full-time job being a bookkeeper. Ran into that teacher some years later. And he's like, oh, what are you doing these days? And I'm like, I'm a bookkeeper. And he just kind of stared at me like, no. Like, uh-huh. Yeah, what are you doing these days? He was selling real estate. Like, it kind of tells you what kind of teacher you were, doesn't it?
Mm. At one time, I wanted to be a teacher. I thought maybe high school level chemistry or something like that. Stuff I could get hold of mentally and be
Mm-hmm.
able to impart. Um, Nowadays, if I knew then what I know now, I would have requested home ec
Hmm.
and been, hey, this is how you balance a
No. Yeah.
checkbook.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is how you make sure you got your car payments. This is how you make sure you don't uh, overdraw anything. And I've got this huge Excel spreadsheet that I use for balancing my checkbook, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really simple, but it's got a lot of calculations in it, and
Yeah,
it's
but you
got
know a lot of schools don't do that anymore,
I know, and
which
it's a
is
shame. It's a shame
ridiculous.
because that's a
Yeah.
basic life skill. I mean, it's like you need a class that teaches you how to write a check. Of course, you don't need that much anymore, but how to balance your bank accounts.
Mm-hmm.
You need something to keep track of your bills coming in, your money coming in, and how much of your money coming in you can spend on those bills. And sooner or later, you'll find a way to pay everything on time,
Mm-hmm.
every time.
Well, at Rossville, we weren't allowed to take it until we were seniors
Mm,
because first semester we had home ec. And since it was a 50-50 split, we got married and we had to figure out things like what kind of jobs we were going to have, if both the husband and wife were going to have jobs, whether we were going to buy a house, rent a house, get an apartment, how we were going to furnish that apartment, the utilities, and just all that sort of things, as well as once a week we'd learn how to cook.
hmm
And the reason it was we had to be seniors was the second part of it was sex ed,
Ah,
and that's when I saw that movie and said that ain't never happening to me. That woman did not scream. She just went and that camera was right there, and I'm like And I told Mom when I went home that day, I said, you were right with the third one. I'm going to the five and dime like you did with me.
mm.
Yep.
Although rent to own is not ever a good idea.
Well, well, that wasn't a thing back when I was a kid.
Believe me.
I looked into it a couple of times, and I'm like, that's paying more than if I bought something outright and made payments on it.
It's a whole lot more than a
Yeah.
layaway.
And yet some people, I mean,
Yeah. Circumstances vary. Sometimes you are in the circumstance to where this is the only way you could afford to get a stove or a refrigerator is to go to one of these rent to own places and pay basically 5 times what
what
the
they're worth, yeah.
appliance is worth, and eventually it's yours, but by that time you need a new one. You wore out the old one. Um,
Yeah. It's called buying a used appliance.
mhm. Took speech and typing instead of home ec.
Oh, I
Refused
also
to,
took
as I put it,
typing.
fist fight 3 or 4 girls over a stove. Yeah, I can remember those days.
Well,
Um,
our school was so small in population that we didn't have to do that.
Hey,
hey,
Hi,
kid.
Carrie.
Carrie.
Yep. Now the home ec classes in my high school were well equipped with not only kitchen stuff but typing stuff, and oh, there was something else. Something else. I don't believe it was laundry, but that could have been included. It really could, except
Oh, that should have been, yeah.
yeah. Well, in the rural area where it was, most of the stuff the high school was teaching, their grandmother had already taught them before they ever got out of kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
But and back then, yes, it was fairly sexist, being aimed at girls. Occasionally, a boy would be extremely talented at cooking and
Yeah.
asked to be included in this program and do really really well because paid attention to what his family did in the kitchen, and didn't matter if it was granny or mom or grandpa or whoever was the designated cook for the family, because
Mm-hmm.
while I was in my high school years, that sort of thing was getting blurred, and it had already been 10 or 15 years since families needed to have both parents work in order to make ends meet. And you had a lot of latchkey kids
Mm-hmm.
that picked up skills, and if you were lucky, you had an older cousin or a grandmother, somebody who would occasionally come down and basically be a live-in babysitter while you were in school. Be there when you got home from school, made sure you got your homework done, introduced you to Dark Shadows on TV. I consider that a life skill right there.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Good TV has a Dark Shadows channel,
Yeah, it
mm,
does,
24 hours a
yeah.
day.
Well,
I've got about 1,000 episodes of the show on my hard drive, but
But a
it's
lot of
it's
these
not a
schools,
complete run.
yeah.
yeah, a lot of these schools not doing these things anymore is one of the reasons behind me working on the shows for, life lessons with Crazy Uncle Dick.
Hmm. And
Because it's stuff
Jennifer,
that
yes, I
they
I
don't
think it
teach.
was sewing. Uh,
Yeah. Well, she mentioned typing. My mother had bought me a child's typewriter back when I was like 11 or 12. So I started out on that. In high school, we had the old fashioned typewriters where you really had to strike down.
hmm
And they had just gotten in those newfangled electric typewriters, but there weren't enough for the whole class. So half the class was on the old fashioned, half was on electric, and the next week we'd switch
hmm
around and go back and forth. And then when I graduated, I used the money I got for high school graduation and got myself Selectric. It was one of those where you could um, change the keys. Because like if you were typing something in Spanish,
Yeah.
you had the correct things. Used that for several years. Started out on a electric typewriter for my work. Moved to the computer, and when I got tired of the idiot that was running the florist shop, I quit and went to Kelly's, and they said, "Well, you're gonna have to take a test." I'm like, "No problem." I go in, I do the typing and the number thing, and I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. And she comes in and she says, she's like, "I'm gonna have to ask you to repeat that typing test." I'm like, "Okay, something wrong?" She's, "Well, I'm not accusing you of cheating because you can't cheat. I just want to watch you do it." I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, and my mind is panicking, going, "I know I can do at least 95 words a minute. That's what I used to do in high school. I know it's at least that fast." So I take it over again, and she's looks at the results, and she looks at me and she says, "You are the first person to ever type 132 words a minute with a 99% accuracy. We don't have a place for you. We're going to have to make a level 4 for you." And I'm like, "Okay." And she's like, "How did you learn to type that fast?" And I says, "Honey, after typing on an old style typewriter, computer's nothing."
Really. There was a time when the company was going to go to. This will let you know how old it was. Punch card
Oh.
computers. Um, I see you and I raise you one medal. Um, they sent a bunch of us that
Damn, one's
were
in the other room.
they sent a bunch of us that were going to have to use computers to these classes to learn how to create punch cards. Most of it was a typing class. There were so many people at the plant that had to use computers that the program ran out of money before they ever got to the punch card part. And then Windows 3.1 and Windows 3.1.1 came along. And here's the dog again. And the entire paradigm shifted without a clutch. And here I am, Mama had an Underwood cast iron brick, basically. A big old concrete block size, 2 concrete block size typewriter. And you had to pound that sucker. And they were letting me use a word processor? No correct type? Oh, I love this. They actually sent me to take a class in DOS. And they paid for it. Windows 3.11 was brand new. So they taught me how to use the precursor, and I had to swap 3.5-inch floppy disks around to be able to run a program. I mean, you get it started with one, then you pop it out and you put another one in.
Mm-hmm.
And, I had already been beyond that. I had gotten myself a TRS-80 with plug-in cartridges for the word processor and stuff like that. Upgraded the thing out the wazoo. It was the when I got finished with it, and I had help from a friend of mine that knew computers, had been working with it. He was younger than me, but he'd been playing with them longer than me. So we put all this stuff together. It wound up. It had a 5 1/4 floppy drive plugged in. It had a printer that the only way it was one of those daisy wheel printers. The only way you could make it work was there was a specific spot behind that daisy wheel. You had to unfold a paper clip partially and put it in there. Otherwise, it would not work. It wouldn't print all the letters.
Oh, the fun days.
Oh, but I mean, this is all Radio Shack equipment. And then PCs came out. So I bought one. And for a little while, all it was $1,000 deck of cards for me to play solitaire because I couldn't figure out how to do anything else. Then I started playing with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured out how to do lots of other stuff. And then there was this new game called Doom that came out where you could play somebody
Oh,
else
yeah.
on another computer that didn't have to be in the same house over the phone lines. So friend got me convinced to do that, got an online connection and everything. We did that for months. He would come over. I had a couple other games. I was mostly interested in flight simulators. Wound up with
A lot of people
two,
did, Bruce.
yep, two different kinds of stealth fighter flight simulators. One of them was really just basically something from an arcade game. The other one was actually made for a PC, so better graphics and whatnot. Had several games based on Star Wars, X-Wing, TIE Fighter, that sort of thing. And just got really into those. I even had the steering yoke for it on my desk and the little outlays that went over the keyboard, so you had the hit this for this, hit that for that. It was really good. Star Wars games, you really needed somebody to work the keyboard while you paid attention to the mouse and the joystick to actually fly. So had another friend that came by, and we traded off being R2 units for the pilot's X-wing. That was fun. It was a lot of fun. I've still got the overlay, but it won't run on a modern computer for some reason.
Yeah.
You tell it to emulate a 386, and it goes, "What's
What?
that?"
Yeah.
Anyway, I eventually I went through a bunch of games and got bored and stopped gaming. Pretty much computer gaming because I was bored. Got into playing D&D for a while, and I got really bored with that because people would ask me to DM for them, and then they'd never follow the script. They'd always pull out something I'd never heard of before, and hours and hours of stuff that I thought would be interesting got tossed by the wayside. So they went from step 1 to step 2 to the end in 3 steps instead of going through the other 60 in between. And I go, this sucks. I put in all this effort, and then I go, okay, well, I'll just write the stuff down. I'll run the damn thing by myself without having to use a dice and anything else. I'll just write stories. I did.
Yep. Well, there you go.
And see what that got me.
I'm kind of Miss Wolfenstein. That
My
was
Raven!
I
Yes, puppy.
and Carl would come up behind me and go, Fulton talk, and of course, Gally. But that was back when he was a counselor. I could
Mhm.
tell when he had a bad day at work because he'd go in there and start shooting those Nazis and calling them by a certain secretary's name.
Mm. The dog wants out. Lindsay keeps putting her in.
Violent video games were my therapy. Um, EverQuest. I actually had a supervisor who looked a lot like the orcs do in EverQuest. So whenever he was a complete ass to me at work during the day, I'd go home and spend just 2 hours camping just a way low level place for me and just butchering orcs and just picturing Harry.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh.
He in fact had the same underbite that they did.
Oh man.
Now, when it came to Doom, I eventually got so bored with it, I started looking up online patches to add to the game, and they changed the weapons, and they changed some of the monsters, and then changed uh, some of the floors of the dungeon to be something else. And I, being the inquisitive soul that I am, I undid the patches and
Uh-oh.
found the animation that they were using for the weapons and the monsters and made my own. Now you remember the bazooka in Doom?
Mm-hmm.
I redrew that so it was a Desert Eagle 44 Magnum. I redid the animation and used their patch program to put it in the game. So my character would walk around going boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
and stuff would explode dramatically, which made me feel good to no end.
I have a sneaking suspicion we learned how to put Wolfenstein on God mode. And I have a
Oh,
sneaking suspicion that on his bad days when he was killing a certain secretary, that he had put it on God mode so they could get like right here and you just laugh in their face and shoot him with the BFG.
uh-huh.
And people say these games foment violence outside the house, and I'm thinking, no, I know a lot of times when they stop violence from happening outside the house.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's a good way to blow off steam absolutely harmlessly.
Mm-hmm.
However, there are some people that can't differentiate between the game world and reality, which is why movies like Tron were made for somebody like me. Um, I should be so lucky. Uh, I always hated the Tron video game in the arcades when you got to the tanks. They could shoot you once, hit you once with one shot, and you were dead. You had to hit each one of them 3 times before they
Mm-hmm.
were dead. Oh, I desperately wanted a patch to change that, but I never found a home version of the thing back when I was actually still playing computer games. Nowadays, my favorite computer games are Mahjong and occasionally Solitaire. And on my phone, I will pull up at work before my work actually starts. I'll sit in the break room and I'll play Solitaire on my phone, killing the 30 minutes in between when I start getting paid and when I actually got there. After that, put the phone away, except for getting texts from my wife or my boss. I don't look at the cell phone except as a clock.
Mm-hmm.
Um, on my Fire tablet, that has become my library. Instead of having to take paperbacks to work and risk them getting splashed with tomato sauce
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
spaghetti or whatever, I'll take this thing and I will. I don't know how many books I got now. It might tell me, but I doubt it seriously. And I
Most of my
need to buy.
research books are on this one.
Uh
Most of
huh.
my fiction that I'm reading for fun are on this one.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me see. Um, got
Shoot.
4 Michaela's books on here. I've got all of Terry Pratchett's Discworld books on here, but I need to go ahead and buy the Tiffany Aching books again to get them in order because the collection they came out with is out of order. It's like book 3, then book 1, then
Mm.
book 4, then book 2. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Uh, all of the Tom Swift senior books. Rick Brandt. You remember those from back in the 60s at the same time as Tom Swift Jr. and Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew? Rick Brandt was a science oriented one.
Ah,
Um,
that was splendid. Oh, do you have Michaela? You've seen about 4 of Michaela's book. Do you have her latest one, Monster?
no, I don't. No, I don't.
That sounds interesting.
Let's see. I've got
Is that the Medusa one?
Uh-huh.
got all
Yeah.
the Tarzan books. Uh, Maltese Falcon and Adventures of Sam Spade, and I'm going to add more of Dashiell Hammett's stuff to it. Although I have noticed Dashiell Hammett's editors should have their butts kicked. They put 2 or 3 people speaking dialogue in the same paragraph.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, 1930s, 1940s, the science had not evolved as much then. Got a bunch of P and L Rod's Vampire Files books. Got a huge swath of
Wow. Haven't read those in ages.
what?
P&L Rod.
Oh, yeah, and she's working on revamping everything.
But
Yeah, she is rewriting all of it in a director's cut version.
Yeah, Ruth, probably because they were fun books.
Yeah, and she's not through with it. I mean, she's not through with writing brand new stories in the series. It's just she's got severe arthritis now.
I
So
read several of her Vampire Files, some of her Red Death series, I think it was.
Yep.
And then I've bought it. I just never had a chance. I've started reading it numerous times, but haven't had a chance to actually sit down and give it a good solid go and get all the way through the book. Her I Stride book.
Yes, definitely. She's got one, The Hanged Man. It's about basically the subtitle would be On Her Majesty's Psychic Service in the 1880s. Lindsay and I are characters in the book. I won a charity auction. A friend of hers had their home burned down, and there was an opportunity to be a character in one of Pat's books, and I bid on it, and I won it, and she called the house to talk to us, and she talked to me for about half an hour, and she said she wanted to talk to Lindsay, and they talked for about 90 minutes. And basically, I was supposed to be a hero, but I wound up being one of the bad guys. But Lindsay was a hero, or well, not action hero, but
Yeah.
a good character, a good uh, what was it? Lawful good would be the alignment in D&D. And I asked Pat if she would please write a sequel that redeemed my character so I don't lose my wife. She might do it occasion in the future sometime. I've got all of the Discworld books.
Yeah.
Although, like I said, I do need to replace the Tiffany Aching stuff. I got all the Tom Corbett Space Cadet books. Um, I think I've got all of Fred Saberhagen's Dracula books. Although there's one of those that's really hard to read. Not because it wasn't written well, but because I didn't like the way the other main character treated Dracula, and that was not. Um, I've got a bunch of L. Neil Smith books, and I was one of the main people that sent him fan mail that he used to get his um,
No.
his essays on personal freedom and Second Amendment rights published as a book rather than just being online essays. I'm trying to get a bunch more uh,
No.
Roger Zelazny right now. I've got all of Stephanie's Division One books, and I've got, I think, almost all of her Sherlock Holmes books on here. But I've got those on in paperback too. But I need to get them ebook so I can read them at work. This thing is just absolutely amazing. It's about the same weight as a great big back paperback, but it's got so much more in it. Oh, all of the James Blish Star Trek books, all the novelizations he did of all the episodes for the classic series. I go through those every once in a while. Got my books, um, the ones that are available in ebook anyway. And yeah, I do read my own stuff from time to time, just to remind me of what I'm capable of when I don't mess around and waste time. It does kind of inspire me to get back to everything. I go, hey, this is good. Oh yeah, I wrote that. I don't believe it. Yeah, you wrote that. I don't believe it. Yeah, you wrote that. I don't believe it. Yeah, look, there's your name.
You gotta read your own stuff once in a while.
Well, yeah. Once you're done proofreading and it's had time to sit, you can stand to go back and read your own stuff. And with me, I can go back and I'll be reading stuff looking for typos.
Mm-hmm.
And then the editor brain turns itself off and the reader brain turns itself back on. And I'm into the story. I don't care if I wrote it. I don't care if I know how it winds up.
And ends up. Yep.
It's a good story.
Yep.
I like that. I can enjoy my own work.
Mm-hmm. I'm the same way. You were talking about having too many people in the same paragraph. I'm currently reading a book by a friend. Love the premise. Love what she's done with it. The marrying of old tradition with modern day,
Hmm.
and yet there's times when I don't know who's speaking.
Yeah.
Or being a writer and an English major, I'm like, that comma doesn't go there. There should have been a comma there. That's not possessive, that's plural. Like, and it takes me out of the story. But I gotta think, I mean, did she even have an editor before it was published?
Well, that's the thing. And I tell people in every writing panel I'm ever on, and sometimes frequently in my editorials over on Aphelion, if you're a writer, you need an editor. Even editors need editors. And I've had professional writers of many years experience with dozens of titles to the name look at me and nod like, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And professional editors, uh-huh,
Mm-hmm.
uh-huh. You know,
Which reminds me, I still mean to talk to you, Donna, about your offer and um, how we want to work that.
I've been thinking about getting on your case.
you don't want that to happen, Rich. You really don't want that to happen.
We'll pull what we call a Keisha on you.
Ooh,
Yeah, y'all threatened to do that. Shortly after I started talking with y'all.
Yeah. And Ruth, yes, Stephanie is absolutely brilliant. All three of us would agree to that.
Yes.
oh, Lord, yes. Lord, yes.
I'm partway through um, Trojan Horse right now, book 5.
Oh, you're ahead of me.
That's all right. I'm ahead of both of you, and I'm not bragging.
I
I've
finished.
I've had longer to be acquainted with her. I mean, when I
Yeah,
met Stephanie, the only thing she had out was burnout.
I
So
had just
I have
on
watched
Omega.
her grow and evolve as a writer.
When I get to about a chapter away from the end of um, Texas Rangers, I think is what the 6th book is probably when I'll buy the next 3 in the series.
Hmm.
I need to get the next 3. I had just finished Alpha and Omega and started watching Stupid O'Clock, and she was on there, and I'm like, typed in Stephanie Osborne is evil. She read that and she just smiled and said, "Thank you." Like, yeah.
Hmm.
At least I
Um,
wasn't verbal like I was with Dan.
I was towards the end of um, Alpha and Omega, and I had been acquainted with her before I started reading the book. Because of Dan's praise for the series,
Mm-hmm.
I went out and looked and saw Small, Medium, at Large, which is a joke that my best friend and I have been using since high school. You hear about the Magic Psychic that just escaped. Yeah, he's a small, medium, at large. Um, so as soon as I saw that, because the history of that pun with me and my best friend, I'm like, I have to read it. So when I mentioned that, and she's like, "Oh yeah, and Houdini's in it." Houdini? All right, shut up, take my money.
Hey,
Really?
Chris.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I was so pissed. I'm like, God damn it, Stephanie! She's like, what did I do? I'm like, this is supposed to be a fun action adventure. There's not supposed to be feels.
Yeah.
She's good at sneaking feels in,
Oh, yes.
and less than sneaking, just outright going, well, ready or not, here it comes. And she writes so well. Her characters are so believable. She's got that in common with Michaela. The characters feel like people you know.
They feel like they're in the room with you, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, wait till you get to Break Houston. I got a minor part
Okay.
in that one.
Which is, I believe, number 10.
Just get to it in order. I don't do anything important.
Oh, that's what I'm doing. I'm going through because it's a fun read, and I don't want to, because I've read the blurbs on Amazon for them. So I'm like, okay, this is going to be a very interesting storyline to continue down. You know, I don't want to jump ahead and spoil something that, because I do like the fact that there's a fair amount of callback.
Yeah.
So I don't want to, sit there and spoil myself more than just what I read in the blurbs.
Each new one builds upon all the rest that came before, which is exactly what I think you meant by callback.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's one of those universes that you don't want to stop reading, but you're not real sure you want to move to.
They're
It's
powerful
dangerous out there.
standalones.
Oh yeah.
They're very powerful standalones. But if I had read, this one before reading Tour de Force kind of gets spoiled.
Mm.
Now, granted, you know he's successful by the end of Tour de Force simply because Omega is mentioned in the further blurbs throughout the rest of the series and that, so we know nothing permanent happens, but it's still real dicey and touch and go, and it's like, damn it.
Well, that's the thing. Stuff that's permanent does happen, but they learn to deal with it as it goes on. It's a brilliantly interconnected body of work, and she does not get enough appreciation, really.
Yeah.
And she got frustrated with the Sherlock Holmes stuff because the Holmes fandom could not stand the fact that she gave Holmes a love interest that was his equal in the universe he got pulled into. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was amazing.
Equal.
Well, you'd have to be, yeah. Otherwise, he wouldn't go to the lengths of dropping all the barriers down that kept him separated from that in his own timeline in his own time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it goes back to how well she writes characters. And it doesn't matter whether those characters are human, alien, historical, or entirely fictional. They're believable. They're real people. And that's one reason why when I came up with that one song that sounded like Sherlock Holmes playing his violin, thinking a problem through, emailed it to her, and she goes, "Can you do more?" And I said, "Yeah." "Can you do a whole album?" I said, "Yeah. Might take me a couple of weeks." And I did. And it's out there. You used to be able to buy it as a physical CD from Amazon, but now the only place you can get it is on Bandcamp. And what a lot of people don't know is that at the very end of it, on the album listing on Bandcamp for Displaced Detective Suite, I did my own version of an audio play of the final problem. The actors I found were a public domain recording of an old radio play with Sir John Gielgud as Sherlock Holmes, and Orson Welles of War of the Worlds fame as Moriarty. And I got Stephanie to record a few lines as Sky Chadwick. And I did all the special effects in there. Found places. Sometimes I had to change the special effect or splice 3 or 4 sound effects together to make the kind of scene I wanted. There's one place where Hansom Cab pulls up. That's fine. But I needed to have it pull away. And then footsteps off into the distance. I had to reverse the sound of the Hansom Cab pulling up and then fade as it went into the distance, and then splice in Holmes's footsteps walking away from the cab towards 221B. People don't know that I'm able to do that, and if they did, they'd probably ask me to do a whole bunch of stuff that would take up so much time I'd never be able to write again. But it was fun. It was really fun. And it's about 18 minutes long, which is why it didn't wind up on the CD. But once you start listening to it, I mean, I replaced all the music from the radio play with mine. And all the sound effects that I had to splice in to make everything work, and then blending that to the Tesseract that Sky Chadwick's time machine. It was basically a time probe. Into that with Stephanie's voice playing Sky and quoting lines from the book. She did an amazing job with just a few words. Just covered it brilliantly. The emotional tone was perfect. Absolutely perfect. She asked me if I needed her to do it again with a different emphasis on this, and I go, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And then, I haven't had any complaints yet. Of course, I haven't looked to see how many people have actually listened to it. Frankly, people discover the stuff and they go through it and they're happy. I'm happy. If somebody wants to throw a few dollars my way, that's even better. But I'm going to do it whether anybody buys it or not.
That is one of your albums that I did buy.
I'll have to check with Carl. He said, I'm going on Bandcamp to get Dan's stuff. And I said, wait a minute now. You know we have 3 CDs already.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so I took those into him. So
yep,
he knew what to buy.
Displaced Detective does not have the CD does not have the audio play at the end. Only on Bandcamp can you find that.
Okay. I'll see if he's got that one.
Hashtag always promote.
That's right.
Oh, And if I were alone back here and I could trust the dog not to eat the damn book, I'd pull it out of its protective container and sign it in front of you, Rich. Thought about printing out the free story online that I use as publicity. It's going to be one of the stories in the second collection of Spaceport Bar books, or Spaceport Bar stories. But a lot of people have not experienced that yet. And it's one of the better ones. It was one I was working on, but it was unfinished. When my publisher said, "Oh, that's enough words, dude. Let's go to print." I go, "Okay, well, I've got one more." "No, I ain't waiting. Let's do it now." Oh, thank you, Ruth.
The story's not finished.
Well, it's finished now. I went ahead and finished it. I put it up. I put it on Aphelion as a free teaser to let people know what the rest of my stuff would look like. But you got to remember, this was 25 years after I wrote the first story. I'm better now. I'm a much better writer now. I've had some practice. That's what she said.
It's a good portion of your 10,000 Airship Suite, Show Tunes themes for streams, Never Bank on a Learning Curve, and the Displaced Detective Suite made it to my phone when Misty and I, in September, went up to go visit our daughter as music to play, during the 2-hour and change drive to go up there and back.
I would warn you about driving to Never Bank on a Learning Curve and what was it? Second Helping? The second album. Those are dangerous to drive to because a lot of them are 160 beats per minute. Your foot wants to go through the floorboards, taking the gas pedal with it. I will not be held responsible for your speeding tickets, people. But the music was so good, officer. Listen to this. That's not an excuse.
We don't do a lot of music when we're traveling, basically because he's not much for music while he's driving. We will, however, play old episodes of The Real Happy Hour over and over again. The Real Happy Hour was a couple of friends. Well, it was three. A guy and his wife and their best friend. And basically, it was the green room. Sitting around, they'd have a different drink recipe and sit there and drink it while just talking. And sometimes there'd be music because they're both very talented musicians. Except theirs was, they recorded theirs, and of course, we don't want that to happen to the green room. But we figured out they kept talking about Eastville and Low Point and this and that and places inside this town. And Carl and I looked at each other and go, they're talking about Catlin, which is a small town just about maybe 10 minutes from us. My folks are from Catlin, or were from Catlin. I'll bet Eastville's Westville. And so they finally got to where they were taking calls. And Carl called in, and he's like, have you ever been to such and such a place down in Eastville? And silence for a moment. Like, oh crap, this guy's figured us out. And he's like, don't worry, I'm from, and I forget what name they used for Georgetown, but I'm originally from Georgetown. I kind of know where you're about. And my wife's family's from Low Point. We recognize some of the landmarks you've been mentioning. So we kind of became regulars after that.
Hmm.
But yeah.
I have recently discovered that some of the online writing I have been a fan of for several years has attracted the attention of different people that would like to be audiobook narrators. So
Mm-hmm.
they have started with permission narrating some of this stuff, and it's really uh you could call it military sci-fi, but it's more um slice of life with military sci-fi added, and it's got all kinds of different things in there. And um if you've ever read any of the things, where humans are basically space orcs, um that's some of it. And there are other things that fall into the same um genre, if not exact same story. But you've got a multitude of writers contributing these different stories. Some of them are short, some of them are long, and they've got thousands and thousands and thousands of words. And these people are tackling them. What they're doing on YouTube, they will put up the text with a simple background and then just narrate the story as if they were narrating an audiobook. They'll do the different voices. Some of them are really good at voices. Some of them are not quite as good at making the voices different from one another. But they're trying, and they're giving a good dramatic reading. And those things, I can sit there for hours and go, I've got stuff I need to do, but there's another chapter of this I got to hear. And I've been thinking seriously about some of the stuff that I've got that I have considered unpublishable, doing the same sort of thing with. Throwing up a background like we've got right now for StreamYard,
Mm-hmm.
putting up a text window, reading through it, putting up another text window, reading through it over and over again till the story's done, how many parts it would take, and I can with my YouTube account, I know how to make long videos. I think I can go up to about 6 hours, which is more than I've got patience to sit and listen to. But 15, 20-minute segments divided up
Yeah.
into chapters, I could probably do that. It's not it's analogous to the thing that Michaela's doing right now with the
The Vela.
Vela, yeah. But instead of being in print, it's spoken word. It does have print, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a YouTube video. And like I said, there's stories I've got that uh, I don't consider them finished, although there is a beginning, middle, and end. And there has been quite a lot of editing done to it, but it's not exactly what I wanted it to be. it didn't fit my vision, but the story got told.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how stories will run away with you.
Oh yeah.
You get started, you think it's going to be this, you get 5,000 words into it, and you realize I ain't, I didn't make that up. Who's typing this? You know,
I
I've
didn't think about that.
I have done that with with the Night Watch novel that I did. I'd wake up the next day after typing half the night, and I'd go back and proofread stuff to do basic edits,
Mm-hmm.
you know, correct typos and whatnot. I'd get down towards the end and I go, I don't remember typing that. I no, I did I do that?
Oh,
No,
I didn't
no.
know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, it's like there's a connection between your imagination, your fingers, and the keyboard. Your conscious mind is not part of that loop.
Exactly.
It's almost like sleepwalking, but it's sleep writing. But you're awake. You should
You should
remember,
remember it.
but you're in the zone.
Nightcap, the short that I did that um, Carl paid me the compliment of saying it felt very Twilight Zone for him, and in a good way. That is exactly how that story was for me.
Yeah. I think that's how all of mine are.
I just looked at the clock, folks. We need to say goodnight, everybody, and wrap it up. I am very, very sorry, but
that's okay.
As much fun as it is, Carl will whine like a little puppy if he has to watch another 3-hour Last Man Standing. And now I'm going to catch flack for saying that. Let's not kick the puppy.
Actually, I'm the one that's gonna get the flack because he blames me for using the word wine.
Oh, sorry. That don't float. Yeah.
Do I look bothered? Night, guys.
Night, folks.
And let me go. Well, it's late at night, and there's fuckery to be done.
Time to do some sketchy shit. Doo-dah, doo-dah. Hope I get away with it. Oh, the doo-dah day.
Transmission overload.
System will shut down. shut down. System will shut down. System will shut down.